36 degrees both days here.
I don't know what that means. That sounds cold.
No, that's in real proper temperature, centigrade.
Yeah.
And it's still 25 tonight, and
we've been having quite a heat wave over here as well, storms and all sorts of things. So the U.S. of A.
Looting and tornado.
I know what's going on in the world. Okay, so today's topic, we are talking about money. Woo! Love it or hate it, or feel both ways about it. So I wanted to start with a paraphrased quote. I don't know who here has seen the movie The Wedding Date with Deborah Messing and Dermot Mulroney, which I have to admit I've probably seen more than one time. It's a silly rom-com, but there's a line in it, old story where an escort goes on a date to a girl's sister's weddings, and sparks fly. I won't tell you what happens, but anyway.
Oh, well, I might not be able to guess.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it. But the quote in the movie says, "You have exactly the love life you desire." And I would agree with that. And I think the same applies to money, in the sense that you have exactly the money you desire. So let's even just start there. I have bunches of thoughts on this, but I just want to throw it out in the world and see reactions to that statement. Does anyone have thoughts on it?
Oh, I'm ready to buy in.
Yeah, you're in? Okay.
I hate that it's true.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Bob.
One of the things I learned this year too is that we have like a money thermometer kind of thing.
Ooh.
Like if it gets too low, then you start making a little bit more. And if you make too much, you don't go too far and you stay within that range. Really,
That's right.
in terms of desire, just kind of get that desire up a little higher.
If that's what you desire.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
That is really, that there's a kind of a thermometer, if you don't even think about it. That's one of the visuals I got there.
Yes, I love that. And a lot of what I think we'll talk about, I actually read the book, You Are a Badass. I don't know who's read that one. Julie, I think you've read that one. It's a fun one, and it's started me thinking a lot on topic of money. And I think there was a line in there, and I paraphrase it again, but she said something about, people react to money. You say money and there's like, people hate it, or they resent people with it, or they love it, but they want more of it, or they don't want to admit or they worried about how they're spending it, how it's going to be perceived. And she said in the book something around, and I was thinking, no, I love money. I'm fine. Bring the money, And she said at the time I read it, if you're coming from a place of lack, if you're lacking it in some way, then you got issues with money, whether you know it or not. And it struck me as very interesting, because I think it started to occur to me that, wait, we have all of these really subtle, maybe unconscious messages that we carry around with us that creates the world or the amount of money that we are actually gaining. And so like, it kind of comes down, like you think of, when you hear people win the lottery and then most of them lose it, like they blow all that money, or it's gone really quickly. What it mostly comes down to, I think, is the idea that they don't really deserve or belong. They're not a person who has money. They don't identify with a rich person. And so they find ways to kind of self-sabotage their wealth. So this is the idea. This started me down a road of really was starting to think about, okay, what are the ways that I think about money? Because I say, at the time in particular, like I say I want it, but I wasn't really rolling it, right? And so what were the messages that I was telling myself? And I went back to, this is after reading the book and then through a coaching conversation with a peer. What are the money messages that I got as a kid? And I think it's a really important one to start to identify, just to create awareness around, what do you even truly think about money? And I started to recognize more subtle ways, but some of the messages I got were kind of well, not that I felt poor necessarily, but other people had money, or not to necessarily ask for things because I didn't think I was going to get them. And then I started to realize, wait a minute, if I'm starting to apply that to my adult life, where am I not asking for things? Where do I not think that I'm someone who has money or is able to create that level of wealth that I say that I want? And in recognizing that, started to really get clear on how I was maybe living smaller than my what I said that I wanted to create. So I'm gonna throw that out. I don't know. Let's just talk today about kind of like, what do you think about this concept? And what do you think about money? If anyone's willing to share.
So there are times when I'm at the low end of the thermometer, and then I get anxious. And I noticed that my father had a thermometer too. And I think I inherited a lot of that probably by osmosis.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know my share of, people who have lots of money, and I don't notice that their lives are any better. And in some ways, they have things that they have to do to take care of that money, maybe real estate, maybe investments or something like that. And I'm just not interested in managing things at the scale that they have to do it.
That is really interesting, Wynn. Thank you for sharing. It makes me think a little bit, and again, like this is going to come down to truly what you define for what you want for yourself, but it makes me think a little bit about that fear of success, like that idea that, well, if I achieve X, then I'm going to be busy all the time. I'm not going to have a social life or time for my relationships. Oh, I'm going to have to manage all this stuff that I don't want to manage. Ugh, I don't want any of that, right? So let me stay over here. Because to you, it sounds like it means maybe subtly, or, like if I have that, then it comes with all this baggage that I don't want to have.
The other thing is I encourage, I embrace on some levels, and I resist on others, money as a standard for success.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So on some levels, I don't want to achieve money success. I want to achieve some other brand of success.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And on some levels, I want money success, but then I don't really have a need for money. So I just sold a house, and I bought a stick of Kerry butter instead of regular butter. So I want you to know,
Is it really
splurging.
different? Is it different? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I had a conversation with my parents a couple of days ago. Now, they were born in the 1920s, right? So they went through the Second World War and all the bombing in London. And I told them that I'm going to move to London. I told them I want to move to London. I had that conversation with them. I could see my mum getting a little bit sort of upset. And I said, Mum, I live an hour away anyway from you. We talk on Skype a couple of times a week. It's only a little bit more of a drive for me to come up, and then she said it so many times before. She said, yeah, but you don't have a real job, So she's always, I've been working for myself and working as a consultant, and, now working to try and get my coaching going. Most of my life, and I've worked from home, and I haven't, for probably the last 20 years, I haven't had corporate job,
real job
with a paycheck. I've had to invoice for my work. And 2 years ago, I was earning a ridiculous amount of money for the number of days a month I was working for this medical company. I was earning more than like my friend around the corner, who I was earning more, 4 years of her salary I was earning in 1 year. And I put it in, into pensions and things, was sensible with it, and I generous with it, took people to the theatres in London and stuff like that. But because because it went down a bit, and now my opinion about it is changed. As long as I can afford to rent this place in London, do my photography, do my coaching, go visit my friends in California once a year, my friends in Vancouver once a year, my outlook has changed. Now, what I value more is the time I can spend in just doing the things I want to do. And I don't even when I had all that income coming in, I wasn't, buying new trousers and suits and shoes. I've still got, one pair of black shoes, 2 pairs of brown shoes. That's all I've got. I've got one black suit for funerals because I'm at that age now where unfortunately some of my friends are passing away, and I've got one nice suit and one jacket to go with my jeans. My parents came through that, the war and stuff when they were on rations and stuff, and they've not taught me to be frugal, but they've taught me to think about what I'm doing with it. And there's always times when you want to splurge and do something for yourself, but they brought me up to be sort of careful about it. So I try and play that I had a bit of an issue with money when I lost my consulting job, due to some very nasty people. But I had a lot of money in savings.
Yeah.
The money I had in savings that I've lasted on for nearly a year and a half, again, was more than most teachers will earn here in 2 years. So I was probably, it helped me take a more risky decisions, I suppose, about.
Yeah.
But I've certainly
Understanding like how much is enough. Is that?
Yeah, how much is enough,
Yeah.
and what's valued? And what's valued to me is going to the theatre, taking my pictures, meeting a friend for a coffee,
I think it's an important point, right? Like, well, one is, can you have success? What's the level of money that you can have? What does that really look like, a full, life experience, versus where do we limit ourselves? The other is, I think, a question that we don't ask ourselves a lot is, how much money do I actually want? I hear it all the time, right? It's, I want to get more money. Well, how much, for what? It's the, always forget what it's called, but basically how we get accustomed to things. I don't know if this is where like the 7-year itch comes from, where it's like you get married and you're really happy, and then it's like, well, this isn't kind of new anymore, right? And the same with money, like this is the amount of money I'm making, and then, well, now I need more money. And oftentimes you don't sit down and say, well, what does that actually look like? How much is enough money? And I think it's because we think of money as something in and of itself that's valuable versus a trade. It's something that we use for something else, whether that be security, luxury, travel, food, our necessities. But in and of itself, it's not a thing that we would care for. Does that make sense?
For me, it's about pension now.
So that's security, right? A retirement.
Yeah, which comes under the security thing. Yeah. So I suppose that's, and I've not really sat down and done. But my house is, my friend who had cancer, and his attitude about life has really changed. And he said, Ash, you've got a house I'll try and convert it into dollars, that's worth about $600,000. He said, you can get a nice 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, even near London, for $2,000 a month. That will last you 30 years of rent. So you know what I mean? So he's got me thinking, well, my house is really my pension.
Yeah, what do I really need?
Anything else I get is cherry on the cake. So it's.
Bob, you wanted to say something.
Well, yeah, I just tap on some of the things that I've heard so far. When Will was talking about success being something other than money, because money is not a measure of success. So you can start thinking about, how do you measure success? Success is on the impact that you make on other people or in the world, or success is a state of being. When you get down to success as a state of being, it gets to what you're talking about, Christine. A lot of people don't even look, you said people don't look at what they want and how much they want and figure that out. I have a program, we get down to what your needs are first. A lot of people don't even understand what their needs are in terms of money. And they don't realize how little money they actually need.
Yeah.
You really get down to it.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a good foundation on your needs, then you're spending money that you can't. And so we focus on your needs first. And then once those little needs are made for shelter, food, protection, insurance, whatever, and it's very little when you really get down to it, everything else is abundance.
Mhm.
Everything. And then it gets down to your other thing you talked about at the very beginning. If you look at everything in terms of scarcity, you'll never have enough money because you'll never have enough and everything is scarce. But when you get down to, wait, my needs are met, everything else is abundance, well then abundance is infinite.
Yeah.
There is no, and I'm not attached to it. I'm only attached to, if you will, what I need in terms of what I need to live. And then everything else is just, there's no attachment to that money in terms of success or need or to live. That's how
You
I
can
see
just
it.
joyfully enjoy it.
Everything is joy, right? No matter how much I have, it's joyful. If I have $5 more, it's joyful. If I have $500,000 more, it's just as joyful. It's, and the thing that I learned from my parents, I'll just share with everybody because I have gone through this exercise this year. Generosity. Money is generosity. It's to be given away. It's not to be held on to. And so my father had a car to sell and he put it on the market for $1,600. This is way back 45, 50 years ago, $1,600. And well, I know it was $1,200, sorry, $1,200. And somebody came, a kid came and he said, I love this car, Mr. Russo. I want it so bad, but I only have $1,000. I don't know if anybody saw this. It's in the video that I have. $1,000. I mean, I only have $1,000. So my father said, okay, I'll sell it to you for $800. And the kid said, what? And my father said, listen, that $200 difference and that $400 difference really means nothing to me. But you being able to buy the car and having the car that you want means so much to you. And take the extra $200 and do whatever you want with it. Money is just general. My father, what that $400 difference was not going to make a difference in my father's life at all.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where it comes back to the thermometer that you were mentioning, where it's like, oftentimes we think we're desperate about money, right? Like we think we need it, or it comes from a place of panic, or we're angry that we have to have it. And yet so often when we truly need it, right, like it somehow shows up right in that last minute, right? Or we figure out a way to get it. And I like that concept of like, when push comes to shove, you really have to figure out how to get it. Well, what if you applied that to regular life? What if push didn't have to come to shove, right? That panic moment. What if we were able to welcome that abundance and that money and that warm relationship with it whenever?
And also you have to know when you have to push. Now, my father lived very simply. We lived above the bakery that he owned so that he didn't have to have a house.
Here's where, and here, I love this actually, because this is actually, I think, a really important point. And I don't know if this is what you're saying, but I'm going to read into it or build off of it, is that I think we also have some messages that say it's not okay to want a lot. It's not okay to really want the new Audi, right? Or the 2 homes. It's not okay to want the really expensive clothes. You should be giving your money away.
Oh, right.
And is that fair, right? Like, or is that true? Not even fair. Is that true? Instead, welcoming a world that says, what if I looked at my full wheel of life existence, and within that came wonderful luxury? What if I welcomed money in a way that allows me all these beautiful things, and also to give, or however I want to spend that? And I think that's one of those subtle messages that sometimes we have that says it's not okay to want a lot, that there's something bad about that, or bad about us if we do.
True, that's perfect. And the way I look at that is, I gave that money away to somebody so that they can have it.
Yeah.
So I can have the Bentley.
Yeah.
I mean, that's okay. I mean, I gave that, if you will. Or again, like if I don't have to hoard it, like, well, I mean, again, just that's how I look at it too.
Right.
There's nothing selfish about it, right? I gave, it was a fair exchange in a way, but I didn't hold on to that money.
Yeah.
I put it back out into the system.
Yeah. Well, I think, whenever I hear the word selfish, I say this all, like, we have to come up with a better word, because it's not necessarily, even that word in of itself isn't necessarily a bad word. to care for self and to want to
Yeah.
exude, right? Like
Just
joyousness
change it.
and abundance.
I love that. Change it to self-care.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I had, you know, to buy
Self-love.
it's a self-care.
Yeah.
No, but it's a great point. You make a great point.
Yeah. Well, I think so. I started, I think about this sometimes as creating a relationship with money, right? Like if you were courting money, right? Like if you were really building a solid, beautiful, loving, abundant relationship, what does that look like? How do you think about it now? Do you kind of resent it? Do you hate it? Do you love it, but feel like it's never scarce or you're never going to have it, that you have to hold on to it, right? Or it's going to leave you. And so kind of thinking about like, what do you want from money in your relationship, but also, and then also, how are you showing up to that relationship? Are you doing what you need to do on your end to cultivate that, that love, I guess. So.
That just gave me an insight.
Oh.
I'm always embarrassed by money.
Mm.
And so what if I thought of it as my boyfriend, right? I'm not embarrassed of my boyfriend. I love my boyfriend. My husband. Sorry. Oh, my boyfriend.
Yeah, I was like, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I shouldn't be embarrassed of it. I love it. I love the money and I'm not embarrassed by it anymore. I like that. That was great. That was a big insight for me right now. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
I got something too, Christine. Like, as you were talking, I started to think of it more as like, instead of that negative feeling of greed or hoarding about it, what if money is just a type of energy flow, right?
Mm.
Right now, my energy flow is of a certain volume, like water in a pipe.
Mm-hmm.
And what if I just expand the way I feel about it a little bit so that it flows in bigger, but also flows out? Like, I don't need to capture it all. I just want it to pass through here so I can use it as a tool and make some new decisions. But I don't intend to keep it forever. I'd like the flow to increase in so the outflow can increase too a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think that's where this comes to, well, first the feeling about it. Like, what is it that I feel about this, right? What is it that I want to create? What does that truly look like? And then to your point, Julie, of, well, I want more of it. Well, that's where the intention comes in, right? Of, okay, what are you doing currently to actually create that? And I sent this in the most recent email, but Rich Lippin talks about this, where it's like creating your perfect system for whatever it is in life, right? So it's like my perfect system for not having the amount of money I desire, right? Well, I undervalue myself and my business. I think of money as something to be embarrassed of and to avoid. I don't talk about it. I surround myself with people who think that, you know, $1,000 is an enormous amount of money, or whatever I don't learn about money. I spend frivolously, whatever the things are. Wait, I'm actually intentionally creating this now. What's one thing that I want to start doing a little bit differently to welcome that more into my life?
The other thought that this conversation's bringing up for me is money means that you can do things. One of the ways to work it is to just think about the things that you want to do, and then that flow would happen so that would be possible.
It's good.
It's almost like taking the word out of the conversation, money, right? Like we get so emotionally tied up in that word. It's a trade. I have this and I'm giving it to you so that I can then have this. And then you can go do something that you find valuable with that, right? Whether it's saving it or traveling or, and some people want a beautiful car, right? And that's their investment. Some people want to travel or eat great food. Some people just want the security. And so, yeah, figuring out when, to your point, what is it that beautifully looks like? there's something called Life Book. I don't know if you guys have heard of this couple, John and Missy Butcher, who basically seem to have created like the perfect life, and these 12 categories where it goes from, certainly the wheel of life, your career, relationships, and fun, also your intellect, the character that you want to be, your emotional well-being anyway. But they have you walk through all these categories, and obviously financial well-being is one of them. And also your quality of life, as far as like, what are you surrounded by? What do you have? Like, how are you experiencing life? But they have you walk through kind of four areas for each category. And one is, what's your belief system about this thing? So financial well-being, what do I even think about money? And my capability, what do I think about my capability of having this thing? Like, do I believe that I'm someone who can make the wealth do I think that money is a wonderful thing that affords me other things in life, whatever that is, right? And then it has you create your vision, to Wynn's point, right? What does this look like? What is, how much is this? What exactly is the vision for this? And then your purpose. Why is this important? Why does this matter? Well, because if I'm attracting that, right, like I get to do more, I get to inspire more people, I get to feed more into my business, I get to give more, right? I get to work with pro bono more, right? Whatever the thing is that you, why is this important to you? And why? Because I don't believe that we have these self-imposed limits in life. So if I'm truly to live that way, then how am I embracing that in all aspects, right? And then the fourth, to my point, long-winded point, is the strategy. Now that I have this belief, vision, purpose to what I'm doing, how am I actually putting into action? Because if we don't do that part, then, right, we're not doing anything. And so what's the intention that I'm putting towards this thing to make it happen?
That was a book?
It's called Life Book. You can find it. They have classes on, if you ever go to Mind Valley.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there are other ways that you can access it. But.
So thank you. And I'll throw this out into the mix too, because what we're doing now in our group, somebody came up with, oh, did I tell you this already? What do I have to be $1 million coach?
No, you hadn't.
And offered $1 million a session. And he came in with, this is what I have to show up completely. I have to be 100% committed. What do I have to do to be $1 million coach?
Ooh, Bob, I'm thinking that next time you might talk about creating the impossible and coming from the future. So this seems like the perfect segue into that. And we're going to close it out, right? Like, if I'm going to be showing up as this person who has this thing, how am I showing up differently than
That's right.
I would be today?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I will throw into the mix, as soon as he said that, like all 20 people were like, oh yes, I'm going to be $1 million coach. And I threw it out. I said, wait a second. Didn't I say this to this group? I said, wait, what do you do for nothing? What do you do for free? If you could be that great, why only if you make $1 million? Are you going to be half as great if somebody pays you $500,000? Are you going to be a quarter of a great? What your life is only measured by your output is only measured by what you get back.
Yeah.
If you could be that coach, why aren't you that coach for nothing? I'm sorry. So
no, we have to close because we're at 30 minutes. I could continue this conversation for a while, but here's what I think truly is that it's coming from that attitude. Once you come from that attitude of I'm $1 million coach, then it shows up in all those aspects, because you don't need that, right, to be just that person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'll end it with this, and we can continue it next time if you want, or put another one on.
Yeah.
He made an offer, and he has his hamburger is a $10 million hamburger, and he got a yes. He got a hell yes at the end of the conversation. He has not yet gotten the check, but it's a $10 million burger. But it was exactly that.
You have to put it out there for it to come back to you. You have to believe it.
And then you actually, that energy, when you watch him do this energy, it's contagious. And people, of course, say, yes, I want that. That's the coach I want.
Yeah.
That's true, because when I was doing photography as a student, I went to the World Student Games as a photographer, and which is like the Olympics but for students. And someone said, "Well, how did you get your press pass, and how did you get into all the venues?" And I said, "I just walked in like I was a professional photographer.
Yeah.
I walked in and said, 'Oh, where's the 600mm lenses for me to use on track?' 'Oh, they're over there, sir. Just go over and they sign out one and they give you one.' You know, I just acted like I was. And inside, I was like, 'Oh my God, someone's going to find out. They're going to throw me out.' But
You gotta
you
go.
you act as you want. What does Rich call it? Act as is.
Coming from. It's a place to come from,
Yeah.
not a place to get
Go
to.
to. Steve, I know you wanted to say something. I want to get
Oh,
your.
no.
Bye, Wen. We'll see you soon. I know we're going over
Okay.
today.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
It's nice to see you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve.
Steve.
I mean, everything everybody said makes sense. The energy flow thing. What is real achievement as far as, what? I mean, I had a lot more money before, a lot more income before than I do now. And luckily I've learned that I need a hell of a lot less than I didn't really think about it at the time. I saved some, I spent stuff, I traveled a little more. I donated 2 cars that were old to charities. Now I would probably sell my car, but that's because my influx is very low now. But I definitely don't want the headaches that my rich boss used to have, who was a neighbor of Martha Stewart and had a apartment building overlooking Central Park and was constantly on the phone worrying about his construction projects in the Virgin Islands that these people were not working on to his satisfaction. And there was like no roof on his house and all this crap. And
This is where I think that's like,
he had a very, I don't know why he wanted to be rich if his life, I don't think he was.
I think it's such a good point, Steve, because it's not one thing, right? It's not like, oh, if I just have the good career, or I just have the money, if I just have the relationship. It's looking at every aspect of your life and saying, well, where, how all these things work together, right? To bring that joy. And what do I want that full vision to look like to bring me?
I think he needed a coach, even though he's the richest person I probably ever knew.
Well, have him give me a call. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that. I was going to, Steve, that's your next client. He's your next client.
Steve's not a coach yet.
Oh, you're not a coach? What do you mean?
Yeah. Not everyone on this call is a coach.
Oh,
really?
Oh, well then send him to, how many coaches do we have here?
You guys, you're all coaches.
No, just some. We're smattered in there. You never know. Anyway, all right, wait, I'm going to close this quickly, the recording, and then we can continue talking.
You can